My name's Andre. I'm 28, and about 3 months ago, I found out my dad invested all the money I've been saving for years without telling me and lost every cent. I had 78,000 Brazilian reals saved in a joint account we opened when I was 18. The idea was that it would be safer there just until I turned 30 or bought something big. I kept putting money in it over the years. Birthday cash, freelance gigs, half my salary for a while. I always kept track, but I trusted my dad to handle the bank side of things. I never imagined I had to double-check my own father. It wasn't until I went to the bank myself to ask for a statement, because I was finally ready to put a down payment on a small apartment, that I saw the balance, 127 Brazilian reals. At first I thought it was some kind of error. I literally laughed at the woman behind the desk when she printed the page and handed it to me. I pointed at the total and asked, "This can't be right. I had 78,000 in here." She just looked uncomfortable and said that if there were any issues, I'd have to talk to the co-holder of the account. I called my dad from the bank. He didn't answer. I texted him. Nothing. That night, I went to my parents' house. I wasn't angry yet. I was confused. I thought maybe he'd moved it to another account or was trying to do something smart with it. He sat me down, looked at the floor the entire time, and said, "It was an investment opportunity. I thought it would help you." That's when my hands started shaking. I asked him what kind of investment, still trying to stay calm. He said it was some kind of crypto startup his friend from church was involved in. Said they were promising insane returns, and he thought he could double or triple the money in a few months. He never asked me, never even hinted. Just saw the money sitting there, decided I wouldn't notice, and wired it out over 2 transactions in January. By March, the whole thing had collapsed. The friend wasn't answering anyone anymore. My dad kept saying, I really believed it would work, like that was supposed to make me feel better. I couldn't even look at him. That money was years of sacrifice. I still lived in a tiny rented place with mold on the ceiling just to keep that money untouched. I never felt so betrayed in my life. My mom didn't even know. She found out with me, sitting on the couch, watching the color drain from my face. She looked at my dad like she didn't recognize him. I think what hurt the most was how he didn't even seem panicked. He acted like it was an unfortunate mistake, not like he'd set fire to a decade of my effort. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just got up and said I needed air. I remember walking outside and pacing in front of their house for over an hour, trying to process what had just happened. At one point, I started laughing, like full-on laughing, just from the absurdity. My dad was always the one lecturing me about responsibility, about not wasting money, about thinking ahead. And now here we were. After that night, I didn't go back there for a while. I couldn't. Every time I looked at my phone and saw my dad's name, I felt this mix of anger and sadness that I didn't know how to handle. He texted a few times saying he wanted to talk, that he still believed it had been a calculated risk and not recklessness. He even said he was planning to pay me back, but I knew he couldn't. My dad's retired. He lives on a pension and barely covers his and my mom's bills. Where was he going to get 78,000 reais? I started asking myself if he ever really saw that money as mine in the first place, or if deep down he always saw it as something he could use whenever he wanted. That's what really messed with my head. I told my friends what happened. A couple of them were shocked. One even got angry on my behalf, but a surprising number just nodded like it was normal. "Man, that's Brazilian family for you," one of them said. Another told me his uncle used his cousin's college fund to open a bar and never said anything until the kid got accepted into university. It made me realize this happens a lot more than people talk about, but it didn't make it any easier. That money was supposed to be my way out, my escape from rent, from roommates, from the stress of never having a place that was actually mine. And now it was gone, just like that, because someone who was supposed to protect me decided he knew better. About a week later, my dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. He had a folder in his hand and looked more tired than I'd ever seen him. I didn't want to let him in at first, but I also wanted answers. Inside the folder were a bunch of printouts, emails, contracts, WhatsApp messages, all related to the so-called investment. He sat at my kitchen table and walked me through the whole thing, like that would somehow fix it. The startup was barely a company. No registration, no legal structure, just some flashy PDFs and promises. His friend had convinced a few people from their church to go in on it, and my dad was the only one who emptied someone else's account for it. I kept asking, "Why didn't you ask me?" And every time he said the same thing, "I wanted to surprise you." That sentence has haunted me ever since. He wanted to surprise me. Like the idea of waking up one day with twice the money would make it okay that he took it without permission. Like the risk didn't matter if the intention was good. I told him I didn't want an apology. I wanted to understand how he could do something like that and still look at me like nothing changed. He got quiet. He didn't cry. He didn't get defensive, just sat there and said, "I don't know." I thought I was helping. I didn't kick him out, but I didn't say much after that either. He left not long after, and I just sat there, staring at that stupid folder full of broken promises. It felt like I was looking at a piece of a version of my dad that never existed. I think what really broke something in me was the realization that he never even considered that the money wasn't his to gamble. He saw it as something sitting there, waiting to be used, and he thought he'd be the hero in the end. And now, even after everything, he still calls it a mistake instead of what it really was, theft. I haven't used that word out loud yet. It feels too heavy, but that's what it was. He stole from me. And the worst part is, there's nothing I can do about it. I could take him to court, sure, but what would that solve? Ruin what's left of my family? Get a piece of paper that says I'm right, but doesn't give me the money back? My mom's been stuck in the middle of all this. She keeps asking me to forgive him, to talk to him more, to be the bigger person. But I don't think she really understands the damage. It's not just about the money. It's the trust. The feeling that I've been lied to and betrayed by someone I never thought would do that to me. Every time I see her, she looks 10 years older, like she's carrying both our guilt. She didn't do anything, but she's paying for it too. I don't blame her, but I also can't pretend everything's okay just to keep the peace. I've been avoiding family gatherings. My sister knows something happened, but I haven't told her the full story. I'm not ready to say it all out loud yet. A few weeks ago, I got an email from the real estate agent I've been working with. He wanted to know if I was still moving forward with the apartment I'd looked at. That email hit like a punch. I had visited the place 3 times. I had measured the living room to see if my couch would fit. I had even taken a picture of the little balcony and sent it to a friend saying, "This is where I'm going to drink coffee every morning." And now it wasn't going to happen. I wrote back saying there'd been a change of plans, and he didn't ask any questions. I guess people back out all the time. But to me, it felt like burying something I've been building for almost a decade. That balcony had become a symbol of everything I thought I was close to. I tried talking to a financial advisor after that. Not to fix anything, that ship had sailed, but just to make sure I wasn't being naive again. He looked at my situation and said, "You did everything right. The mistake wasn't yours." Hearing that from a stranger actually made me tear up a little. I didn't expect validation to hit so hard, but it did. It reminded me that I'm not crazy for being this upset. I wasn't being reckless. I wasn't being dramatic. I was stolen from. And the person who did it is still acting like it was just a bad call, like he burned dinner instead of burning down my future. That's what keeps me up at night. The idea that maybe he'll never really get it. I haven't fully cut contact with him, but things aren't the same. We talk sometimes, mostly small talk, birthdays, holidays, but I can't look at him the same way. There's this invisible wall between us now. Every time I hear his voice, I'm reminded of that moment in the bank, staring at the account balance, feeling my stomach drop. I think he tries to act like nothing's wrong because he doesn't know how to fix it. But what he doesn't understand is that this isn't something you fix with an apology or a few good months of behavior. It changed something fundamental. It changed the way I see him. I used to think of my dad as the most responsible person I knew. Now I see him as someone who can't be trusted with something as basic as boundaries. One of the hardest parts has been keeping this to myself in certain circles. At work, for example, nobody knows. Everyone still thinks I'm saving for my apartment, and they keep asking me when I'm moving. I just smile and say soon. I'm too embarrassed to explain what really happened. I don't want to be the guy whose dad wiped out his life savings behind his back. That kind of story sticks to you. It makes people look at you differently, like you're stupid for trusting your own family. And maybe I was. But it sucks knowing that protecting your pride means swallowing something that still makes you feel sick. I'm tired of carrying it alone, but I also don't know how to share it without unraveling everything. A few days ago, I saw an old note I had written to myself years back. It was tucked in a folder with some printed payslips and bank statements. The note just said, "Don't touch this money. Future you will need it more than current you does." I remember writing it after getting a small bonus at work and being tempted to buy something expensive. Seeing that handwriting, knowing how hard I worked to build discipline over the years, made something crack inside me. That version of me had no idea what was coming. He didn't know someone else would make that decision for him. It felt like I had betrayed my own past self, not by choice, but by not protecting the one thing I thought I had locked down: control. I've been thinking a lot about whether or not to tell my sister. She's younger than me, and she looks up to our dad in a way I used to. I don't want to ruin that for her, but at the same time, I don't want her to ever be blindsided the way I was. I keep rehearsing it in my head, how I'd tell her, how she'd react, whether she'd believe me. Part of me thinks she might already suspect something's off. She noticed how distant I've been. She even asked if everything was okay between me and Dad, and I lied. I said work had been stressful. I'm not proud of that, but I panicked. It's one thing to carry this anger quietly. It's another to drop it into someone else's lap. I haven't decided what to do yet. There's this weird guilt that comes with being angry at your parents. Like you're not supposed to feel this way about the people who raised you, fed you, gave you a roof over your head. But being a good parent once doesn't give someone a lifetime pass to do whatever they want. I keep telling myself that, trying to convince myself that I'm not being ungrateful. But I still hear his voice in my head saying he did it for me. That excuse keeps looping, and every time it does, it makes me feel more exhausted. I think what hurts most is that he didn't see me as an adult. He saw me as a kid who wouldn't notice, or who would forgive him no matter what. That realization made me question everything else. How many other things had he done? Thinking I'd just go along with it? I don't know if I'll ever see that money again. I made peace with that, sort of. But the part one can't get over is that it didn't have to be this way. A conversation, a heads up, even a request. Any of that would have changed the entire outcome. But instead, he made a choice in secret, gambled with my future, and walked away thinking he was doing something noble. That's what makes it so hard to heal. I don't even know how to start repairing a relationship built on silence and assumptions. And the worst part? He still asks me to trust him. He still talks like one day he'll make it right, as if there's a clean slate waiting just around the corner. But that slate doesn't exist anymore. Not long ago, I bumped into one of his friends at a gas station. A guy I used to see all the time when I was younger, one of the ones who went in on that investment. He asked how I was doing and then casually mentioned, "Your dad's still pretty shaken about everything that happened. He really thought it was going to change your life." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and said, "Yeah, it did." He looked confused for a second, then changed the subject. That moment stuck with me, though. It made me realize how differently everyone saw the same event. To me, it was a betrayal. To them, it was just a well-intentioned plan gone wrong. That disconnect is what makes it so isolating. You feel like the only one who sees the full picture. Since then, I've been trying to move forward. I opened a new savings account at a different bank. Changed passwords. Stopped sharing my plans with family. It feels cold, but it's what I have to do to protect myself. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever feel safe again, financially or emotionally. Trust takes years to build and seconds to lose. I've learned that the hard way. And even though I'm starting over, it's with this constant ache that doesn't go away. The apartment, the plans, the comfort, they're all gone. Rebuilding is possible, I know that. But I'm not the same person who started this journey. And I don't think I ever will be again. One night, I was cleaning out an old drawer and found a birthday card from him. It was from 3 years ago, before all of this happened. In it, he had written, "Proud of the man you're becoming. I know you'll make smart choices. I stared at that line for a long time. Smart choices. It felt like a slap now. I wanted to believe he meant that sincerely, but after everything, I couldn't tell if those words were genuine or just part of the image he always tried to keep up. That was the thing with him. He cared so much about how things looked from the outside. Being the wise, supportive dad. And maybe in his own mind, he still thinks he is. But those words ring hollow now. That card went back in the drawer. I couldn't throw it out, but I couldn't keep it on display either. Recently, my mom invited me to a small family lunch. She said Dad would be there, but it would be low-key. I almost said no, but something in me wanted to see him, not to talk about the money, but to see if he looked different, if maybe time had softened anything. He hugged me when I arrived, and for a second, I almost forgot. But then he asked how work was going, if I was still saving for the apartment, and it all came flooding back. The way he said it, like none of it had happened. Like that whole chapter had been erased. I didn't respond right away. I just looked at him, and he looked back at me with that same polite smile he always used when he wanted to keep things pleasant. It made me feel like I was going crazy. After that lunch, I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just me and my thoughts. I kept replaying his question in my head. Still saving for the apartment? It wasn't just clueless. It felt performative. Like he was saying what a dad is supposed to say, without caring whether the words had weight. I wondered if maybe he'd told himself a different version of what happened. One where I was on board with the investment, or where it wasn't that much money, or where I could easily recover. It's easier to sleep at night when you rewrite the past in your favor. But I don't have that luxury. I live with the consequences every day. That drive home was the closest I've come to crying about it in months. I didn't, but the lump in my throat stayed the whole way. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop and just started typing everything out. Not for anyone else, just for me. I wrote down the exact day I found out. What the screen looked like when I opened the bank app. The numbers. The pit in my stomach. The heat in my face. I wrote about how he avoided me for a week after I confronted him, then acted like nothing had changed. I wrote about the apartment, the agent, the balcony. All of it. It turned into 10 pages before I realized what I was even doing. I guess I wanted to make it real again because so many people have tried to brush it off. Writing it all down made me feel like I wasn't crazy. That this happened and it mattered, even if no one else wants to say it out loud. What really messes with my head is that I still love him. I wish I didn't, but I do. And I hate that love feels like a trap sometimes. Like no matter what someone does, there's a part of you that still wants to believe they didn't mean to hurt you. That maybe if they just explained it better or said the right thing, it would all make sense. But I've waited for that explanation, and it never came. What came instead was silence, avoidance, and the slow erasure of something I thought was permanent. You grow up thinking your parents are this steady presence, but when something like this happens, it's like the ground shifts. You see the cracks that were always there, but that you were too young to notice. And then you have to ask yourself, how much of this was ever real? A part of me wonders if he feels anything close to what I do. Does he regret it when he's alone? Does he scroll through his own bank statements and remember what he took from me? Or has he convinced himself it was just a setback, that I'll bounce back, that I'm overreacting? I honestly don't know. We never talk about it. It sits between us in every conversation like a third person, silent but massive. I don't think we'll ever get past it. Not really. But I also know I'm tired of carrying it like a secret. That's why I'm writing this here. Not to get sympathy, not even really for advice. Just so that someone else out there who's gone through something similar knows they're not alone. Because if you've ever been betrayed by someone you thought would protect you, you know how hard it is to even say it out loud. I think the worst part is that there's no closure. He didn't apologize. He didn't admit fault. He didn't even say he tried to fix it. He just kept living like nothing happened, like this was just some unfortunate bump in the road. And meanwhile, I'm the one left with a mess, both financially and emotionally. Every time I try to move forward, something small brings it all back. A conversation about housing, a commercial about investing, even seeing dads and sons out together. It's not about the money anymore. It's about what it symbolized. Security, respect, trust. And when that's gone, it messes with your sense of reality in a way that's hard to explain. You stop feeling safe, even in places that used to feel solid. I haven't talked to him in a few weeks now. It's not a conscious decision, just a natural result of not knowing what to say anymore. Our last conversation was short. He sent me a photo of some barbecue he made, like that was supposed to break the ice. I didn't respond. I looked at the picture, and all I could think was, he still thinks this is normal. Maybe it is for him, but for me, it's not. Nothing's been normal since the day I saw my bank account drained. I keep wondering if one day I'll wake up and it won't hurt anymore. Then I'll look back on all this and feel nothing. But that day hasn't come yet. And until it does, I'll keep carrying this around, even if no one else sees the weight. I don't expect justice at this point. I'm not going to take legal action. I'm not going to blast him publicly. There's no big revenge arc here. It's just me, living with the fallout of someone else's choices. That's the part no one prepares you for. When the people you love hurt you in ways that can't be undone, there's no roadmap. You wake up, you go to work, you smile at people, and you carry this thing inside you that never really fits anywhere. Some days it's small and quiet, and some days it takes up the whole room. I learned to function with it, but it still shows up in ways I can't always predict. Like flinching when someone talks about family, or shutting down when people ask about my plans. It's always there, even when I pretend it's not. And the strange thing is, nothing else ever really happened after that. No big blow-up, no heart-to-heart, no dramatic confrontation. It just stopped, like he made the choice, and then life kept going, and the only person left spinning was me. That's what messes with me the most. That something so big could happen, and the world didn't pause. Nobody around me really got it, and he never acknowledged the full scope of what he did. Sometimes I still check my old messages or my banking history just to remind myself it was real, that this wasn't some dream. But I never get any new answers. Just the same silence, the same confusion, the same ache that won't quite go away. And maybe it never will.